perfect. You have to unmute your microphone. Yeah. And you ready to record now?
Yeah, I'm recording. Yeah. How come you can't
Okay,
hear
perfect.
me? I can hear you clearly.
Okay, yeah, because your microphone on your thing is look. You're gonna see a microphone there. You have to.
Can you hear me now? Hold on, let me turn it off. Hold on, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you also check your audio settings too to make sure.
Can you hear me now?
It's using the right microphone.
Microphone where? Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yeah, okay. How you doing?
Good. With whom? Who's that talking?
This is Naveed.
Naveed.
Okay, cool. And then, who's the other person we have on? There's one other person.
Sanat from India.
Okay, is he going to be speaking at all, or?
No, I'm just going to be listening, I guess.
Okay, well, cool, yeah, so we can get started here. Based on the notes that I had from our previous call, it looked like you guys were interested in doing both listing reports, citation reports, and possibly reputation.
For now, we're gonna do mostly the listings. So I need to generate a report for clients to show them on what websites they're listed and where they're not listed, and to be able to get them actually listed on the sites after.
Right. Okay, let me make a note.
So I'm actually a little bit confused between the difference between citations and the listings. So if you could explain that would be good. But I think from what I understood last time, it was really the listing that we need.
Right. So let's go to a listing report here. So basically, the listing audit reports that we have in place to Scout, these focus on your major top directories, and we support 28 different sites. That list of sites we support. It's going to be this list here. So this is like your important sites, like the sites you want to make sure that you're listed on and the information is accurate. So that's like the goal of these reports. So basically the way it works is should I explain like how to create these to you guys, or do you want me to just go over like a top level overview of it?
Yeah, please do the detail from scratch.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just start from the top then. So like basically like the first thing you want to do is you want to create a client. So in Places Scout, like a client's going to be a placeholder for one or more locations for that client. So in here you would just go to like add a new client. And what I would suggest for you guys before you like start your API implementation is that you use the UI to actually create stuff. And then once you have it figured out and working in the UI, then you can, start to integrate with the API. But I think it would make sense to first use our user interface, get it working in here, and then work on your API implementation. That way you can understand like the proper workflow and stuff when creating these clients and locations and reports. So anywho, basically like you would create a client, I guess we can just do one here. I can give a client name. We'll pull like just pull like a business around me. Zimzala here. So we'll call this Zimzala, client name. That's all you really need is to put the name for the client. So go ahead and hit submit. And then once you create the client, the next step is to create the location for the client. So you would go to the locations tab, and then you would add in a new location. So we're going to do Zimzala, location name, business name. Then I'm just going to pull all their information directly from let's see here. Go back to maps.
All those fields are necessary to be filled in order to create the new client?
Yeah, so we basically need the NAP info. That's the main ones. So you'll see what I'm taking, the address.
Why if the client is not listed on the map? Then we cannot create it, right?
Well, you can. It's just that they won't, like our reports will show that they don't have that listing on there, which is actually a good thing because that means that you can say, hey, look, you're not listed on Google Maps, for example.
Exactly. That's it. If we can, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
rare case, but I'm sure we're gonna encounter someone who's not there, maybe. That's what I asked, if all the fields are mandatory to be filled in order to create it, because I see the question marks.
Yeah, to do a listing audit report, yeah, we need the NAP info because that's what we're auditing. So you need to do the business name, street address, city, state, zip, phone, and website. So we'll go ahead and create that location there.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, these two drop downs here are going to be your client location selectors. So this one is your client selector. This is your location selector. So I don't know if you guys deal with clients that have one or more locations, but we do have full multi-location support. So you can create more than one location. So say you're working with a franchise that has multiple businesses or multiple locations, you create a single client for that franchise, and then you create each individual location. That's why we have the separation between clients and locations, is because we support multi-location businesses, and we have aggregate views for multi-location businesses where you can summarize all their data for all their locations.
Okay.
So we're just going to focus on the listing reports for now. So basically, there's two ways you can get part of what we need to create a listing report is we need to have all the URLs to the listing sites that they have. So obviously you probably don't know those. So what we have in place to Scout is a process that's called auto-populate. And what that does is, based on the NAP info you provide us, we go out and we locate all the listings for the business. There's two ways you can do it. You can auto-populate a location. So if I edit the location, I can come here and auto-populate the listing sites for the location. And that's the way I'm going to do it now. The other way you can do it is you can create a listing audit report. And you can see here it says listing sites to monitor. So you can go in here and manually add them, but that's a pain in the butt because you have to go and find them. But after you create it, you can auto-populate the listing report itself. But we typically recommend doing it on the location level. So if you do it on the location level, then when you create your listing audit report or your a reputation report, that those URLs will be persistent. So they'll automatically be populated. So if I go here to location and I auto-populate the location sites, here's where I check what sites I want us to go find the URLs for. Mm-hmm. So basically, you want to only check the sites that are applicable to the business. So if it's like a dentist, for example, they're not going to have a listing on TripAdvisor, but this given business is a restaurant, so they'll have TripAdvisor. They'll have pretty much most of these. Mm-hmm. OpenTable, Demand Forest.
How many are there?
But they're not going to have. What's that?
How many are there here? The listing here. How many are there?
There's 28 here.
28. Okay.
Yeah. So now some of these are niche specific, like Dealer Rater. That's for car dealerships, Cars.com, Edmunds. So a restaurant's not going to have a listing on those sites, so you wouldn't check those for the auto-populate. Home Stars, that's for contractors, Alwa's lawyers, health grades, doctors. So these ones here, you don't want to auto-populate those because they're simply not going to have a listing on those sites because it's a restaurant. Now, if you were dealing with a lawyer, for example, you would check Avo because they're going to have an Avo listing, or a doctor, health grades. So from there, you basically just go ahead and you run the auto-populate. And then what that's going to do is Places Scout's going to now go at and it's going to find the listing URLs on each one of these sites. So pretty much have to kind of wait until that's done. You'll get a notification up here whenever it is done that says, hey, your auto-populate's complete. And then there's one final process, and that's just to review the URLs that we found, because as you know, there's a lot of inaccurate NAP info on various directories, like on Yelp, for example. Their phone number might be wrong or their address might be wrong. So there's a step where you want to review those URLs and make sure that we found the right one. And then once you do that, you can go ahead and create the listing report and then run it. Mm-hmm. So, so we'll just kind of have to wait here for that to get done, and we'll get a notification. It takes about a minute or so, but in the meantime, I can go over and I can review listing audit report for different clients. So, I'm going to go ahead and select Cheesecake Factory. That's the client I've been demoing. So if we go to this listing audit report, and I'll go over here what happens after it's auto-populated. So after you auto-populate, basically what you'll see here is you'll see a list of all the listing sites URLs that we found. So you can see here, we found their Google My Business URL here. And then you also get an auto-populate confidence score. It's basically how confident we are that we found the correct URL for the business. And that's based on how accurate the NAP info was and how accurate we were able to match it. Mm-hmm. So basically, anything under 70% is sites that you want to review. There's sites that we're going to mark as inactive. So we also have this flag for each listing URL. That's whether or not it's active. And by active, that means we're going to include it in the report. So if the auto-populate confidence score falls below 70%, we're going to mark that site as inactive because we're going to say, hey, we found this listing URL, but the information looks a little bit inaccurate. So those are the ones you really want to review to make sure it's the right one, because it might be one that's not correct for the business. So we would automatically mark those as inactive whenever we do the auto-populate, just because we found something, we're just not sure it's the right one due to the NAP info not matching properly. So, the final step is to just go through and make sure that these URLs are all correct, and any of the ones that are inactive, verify that they are the right ones. If they're not the right ones, you can go out and find them and paste them in here, or you can just simply delete them from the report. So once you've got the URLs configured, the next step is you want to save the report and then run it. So I'm going to go back to that Zenzala. Let's see here. Let's see if that one's done yet. No, we're still waiting on it.
Tell me, can I ask you a question? When you have those listings, do you have a legend or something that it says what those icons means for somebody that we train? You have the Facebook, everybody knows. TripAdvisor, everyone knows. But a few of them, maybe I don't know, or somebody doesn't. Do you have a legend to say what those sites are? Like you were saying, if it's a restaurant or auto repair shop, something like that.
We don't really have a legend per se. So you're talking Yelp, TripAdvisor.
Yeah, what they're pertinent to.
Yeah, we don't really have a legend. But
do you have the list of at least those 28?
Yeah, we have the list. You can come in here, if you go to this auto-populate, you just take this and copy and paste it. This is the full list.
Okay,
it wouldn't be all that hard to come up with a legend.
Well, I'll make my own legend. That's no problem. That's what I was asking if you have those. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah. The list is right here. So, anywho, we'll go back to the report. So more here, and so this is the listing audit report. So basically at the top, what you're going to see is how many listing sites are in good status, and by good, that means that all the information matches, has the name, address, phone, website, and then you'll see the number of listings that need attention, and that basically means that those listings are the ones that have inaccurate info. Then at the top right, you're going to get some summary metrics, like how many listings are monitoring, how many are accurate, inaccurate, the average rating, how many reviews they have on all their listings, information like that. So down below here, basically what you'll see is for every different site, you're going to see the exact NAP info as it appears on that given directory site. And anything that's inaccurate, we bold in red. So you can see here on local.com, the address is incorrect. It's supposed to be 131 Wolf Road, but it's 131 Colony Circle. On Facebook, they don't have an address and the zip code's incorrect. So we easily display what pieces of data are inaccurate. That way you can see, what identifiers are wrong, and then these would be the sites that you would want to fix. So those will automatically get marked with the status. Anything that's accurate will be marked with a good status. Anything that's inaccurate will be marked with a needs attention, and that basically means that listing information is incorrect on that site and it needs to be fixed.
Okay.
So a couple other things, we do have charts of this data over time, like how many accurate and inaccurate listings you have, what's your average rating. So if you want to see how those change, you can charts of it. And then we also have a client reporting feature too, where if you want to email these reports directly to your client, you can come in here and create a client report. And basically this would be something that you can email directly to your client. Typically what people do in Places Scout is they schedule these reports to run on a periodic basis. So after you create it and run it, like typically people, there's a scheduler setting here on the report. So this given report here is scheduled to run every week on Sunday at 9 p.m. So if you set a scheduler setting, basically Places Scout's going to automatically run that report for you in the background, so you don't have to keep coming in the software and running that report. And then what you can do is you can have Places Scout automatically email these reports to your client too. So part of the report setup is client report settings. And here you can see the various options for the client report. You can white label them. You can add in a custom logo. And then we have an option here that says, should we automatically email this report every time it's done running? So if you were to check this option and you have all the email settings filled out here, so you can put email to, email from, like the subject of the email, and then the body text. We also have a lot of placeholders you can use here. So if you want to summarize the client report email, you can say you have, for example, this many listings with accurate NAP info, and then you have right here the number that needs attention with inaccurate NAP info that need attention. And then what we'll do is when we email this, we'll take this placeholder and we'll replace it with the actual value from the report.
Okay, let me ask you something. This is, I know we can send it for each client, but is there a way to make it automated that automatically this format that we set here, it sends automatically to every client rather than doing for one by one clients for us?
Well, yeah, so you would basically set you have to set the reports up for all your clients. Okay. And then, are you talking about doing this as a one-time thing or have them like continually get updates with these reports?
No, one-time thing. So if we want to change it for a specific clients, okay, so we want to do it every 2 months, we'll do that. But once one of our agents, sell the product and, the client's going to receive it once a month, as you mentioned, the reports of the listings or whatever it is that the charts and whatever. So we don't have to do it individually for each client that we sell the product to. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Basically, once we list them, once we fix all their mistakes and once we correct the listings,
right,
that the client would get a notification or something saying, "Hey, here you go, all the information is."
Once a month, that client gonna receive all that information.
Right. So when you create these reports, that's where we have this, should we automatically email the report every time it's done running? So that's the setting you'll want to check.
And that's for all clients, correct?
I'm sorry, what's that?
That's for all our clients. It's not only for
one.
No,
this is for this specific client. Each client can get one every month if you want every month or whatever time you want.
But you have to create a separate report for each one of your clients.
Correct.
I see.
But yeah, so
every client has a different report that have different report results.
Yeah. It's just, this would be the setting when you go to create. If you have this checked and you fill out all the email settings, then we're going to automatically email this to your client. And then if you guys want to test this out, like the way you test it is if I go back to the report, if I go to client reporting here, you'll see all those similar settings, custom logo, this would be like a preview here, the report, this would be exactly what's going to go out to your client. And then we have this email report tab here. So here you can come in to fill all that information out. And then you can come here and just send a one-time email to test it. It's good to kind of like test it first. That way you can get the email to your liking, like send it to yourself first and make sure it looks good. This is exactly how you want it. And then you just come in here and email it. You can attach this PDF or HTML file. And then that'll send a one-time email. And then once you kind of have the report down and everything looks good, then you can use that. You can say, create a template report. And then when you go to create new reports, use that same information.
Okay.
So let's see here. It looks like that auto-populates. You see up here, that Zimzala, we have the auto-populate completed.
Right.
Got this notification. So if I click that here, basically, if I go down to the listing URLs, so here's a list of all the sites we found. So you see we found the Merchant Circle listing. We're 90% confident. That's good. So, really anything that is over 70%, like I said, is going to be the proper URL for the most in most cases. So usually what I do is I just kind of glance over these, like I see Zimzala. I look in the URLs. You can pretty much usually see exactly where they are. Zimzala. These all look like they're correct. This one here is 78.40% correct, so that might not be the right one. So you can click that icon right next to it. It would pull it up. And this here, so this is a restaurant inside a hotel, so this does not actually appear to be the right listing. So what I would do in this case is search for it. So here we go, we found it. Zimzala Shore Break. So this is the correct listing here. So come back in here and just fix that one. And then this one here is 50%. So you see it fell below 70%, so we marked it as inactive. So this one here, if I pull it up on Manta, okay, that's Flatfish, that's not the correct one. If we go to Manta, say Zimzala. Here's the right one. We go in there, paste it in, and then we set it to active. So now that we have all the correct listing URLs for this business, we store them on the location itself. If I go to the listing report and I go to create a listing report here, you can see it automatically copied all those listing site URLs from the location to the listing report.
I'm sorry, the one that it says inactive, we did it in the previous step, right? It wasn't generated by the report.
Yeah, so like these ones here that say NA, that basically means that we couldn't find them. Yeah, you could delete them if you want, but if it says NA, that basically means we couldn't find that listing URL. So you have two. I mean, you could just leave them in there. You don't really have to remove them because they're inactive. We're not gonna include them the reports. We don't have the URLs. But if you want to find the right one, you can go to so for example, Zomato. If I go to a lot of times you'll find some of these businesses just don't have listings on these sites. So if I go to
right.
So it looks like this is the one here for Zimzala, so I can just paste that in, set it as active, and save it.
Right.
Yeah. So the next step is to create that report, and then we've got to give it a name. We create the listing report, and then there's one last step is you have to run it. Creating a report does not run the report, just always keep that in mind. So after you create it, you go ahead and you run it. So you use up here you use the actions menu, run listing report, and then the report will run, and then when it's done, you'll get a notification. So typically what people use Places Scout's listing audits for is to monitor listings for two things. One is to determine how accurate your listings are, and it kind of helps you answer the question of whether or not you need to order a listing syndication service. Because if you can make the argument, if every listing's accurate, well, you might not need to order any listing service. But if they're inaccurate, then you know that you need to order a listing service. And then a lot of the listing syndication services, they take several months. It could take 1 to 6 months for those listings to actually update on each individual site. So people use these reports to basically monitor when the listings get updated.
Okay.
That way you don't have to go keep checking every listing all the time to see when it got updated on that site. And you just run these every month and see exactly when it got updated.
Correct. Once we correct it in the system here, how long does it take to really actually take effect in the actual report? Let's say on the Manta, the one you submitted it right now. Is it immediate or does it take few hours or few days?
Well, so if there is a site with inaccurate listing information, you can, as soon as you fix it on that site, like Places Scout, okay, so if you fix the inaccurate information on the site,
right,
the next time you run this report, Places Scout's going to pick up that updated business information.
That I get, but in actuality for Manta itself, does it take effect immediately in reality, or it takes few days or months or whatever?
Well, so I think you might be a little bit confused. These reports here, we don't actually fix the listings. These are solely auditing reports.
I see.
So running these reports, just audit them.
I see.
If you want to fix them, we're going to be offering that service.
That I'm going to be taking care of myself. We're gonna be doing them manually with my guys in India. So we can either use the aggregators, like Vendasta, for example, does, or we're gonna do them. That I'm gonna be handling manually.
Yeah, and we're also going to be offering that service too, where it's going to be coming out next week. We're really excited. So if you guys do want to use us, like we'll be able to actually fix the listings for you, and we'll also be able to build citations on various sites. So that we've been working really hard on that, and it's due out next week, just in the last touches. So that'll be part of our tool too, where you can submit to the major aggregators, and then you can also purchase citations. And we'll have some different reports on that too that I think you might be interested in, Ali, because they're a little bit more comprehensive.
Mike, one thing that's very important, our main thing right now in order to get started is, and that was the reason why we wanted the APIs, we want to be able to generate reports or we want our clients to be able to generate reports directly from our website. So can you show us a sample website or someone that you already have where we can go, for example, on their website, enter a business information and generate a report?
I don't really have a sample one of that. Like,
can you go on 411biz.com? It's a friend of mine's website.
yeah, so I mean, you can easily code something like this, like a listing scan. You would just integrate it directly.
That is why we needed the API. So if you go here, this is a friend's website, you're going to see on top it says scan, run a scan or something. You see scan my business?
Scan. I'm looking. Is this the right one?
No, just on the let the banner roll there. It's on the homepage right away.
Oh, right here. Scan my business. Yeah.
Exactly. So scan my business. This is what we want. So we want to be able to put something like this on our site, so our clients can go online directly, or we can do it from the back end. They can put their information, and it will run a scan for them. So
Right.
I was asking for the API. How can we connect this to our website?
Yeah, so basically you would just integrate with our API. Like when someone would fill out this form, you would create, so if that's what you want to do, you don't actually have to create a client location for these listing reports. I can come in here and I can just create like a listing report that's not associated with a client location. And that might make a little bit more sense for you guys, just since these seem to be like kind of one-off things where people are doing the scans. So you can add new listing reports here, because part of the listing report, you associate it with a client location. So you can select the client location. Now, you don't have to do that though. You can just create a listing report, and this would be like a single API call. And in there, here's your business information. You would pass the business information in with the listing report.
Okay.
So that would be like, you would just basically create that report, auto-populate it, and then part of auto-populate it.
It's one of my guys who were having an issue. They were not understanding exactly how to do it, or they were having some problem with the API, I think.
Yeah, so there's two steps. One is to create the report. I'm sorry, three steps. One's to create, and then auto-populate, and then run. But you can also run it directly after it's done auto-populating.
Mm-hmm.
So you create the report in the API, and then so if I go to like the API endpoints here, we got a listing reports. You can see like we posted this URL. So here's like the model schema of what you would post. You can see here we have the name, business info. You would just leave the listing sites blank because you don't have those right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then you create that report, and then you would call the auto-populate on it. So you would basically do the auto-populate here. And then you pass that report ID, which you would get back when you create the report, and then a list of listing sites auto-populate. And then there's also a field on there that says, should we automatically run that report when it's done running? So if you wanted this to kind of happen in real time, so they can click that and like only like wait a minute, you would you can skip that review. Because remember I was showing you about reviewing the URLs. If you're doing a real-time scan, you're not really going to have time to do that because you want someone to fill this out and see the information, within a minute or two.
Yeah, so even here I find there's too much information. Like Yeah, expecting they just ask you for a business name and they have like 3 different things they ask you.
Yeah, we definitely need the name, the NAP info, name, address, city, state, zip, and website usually is.
Okay.
So you basically just create the report, give it a name, and then you auto-populate it. And then when you auto-populate, you pass in that option that would say automatically run it when it's complete. So if I go to the auto-populate, that option's right here. Run report when it's complete. So you would check that, and then we'll automatically run it. Now, what the next step goes, like you're going to have to know when is this report done running. These reports don't take very long. They usually take a minute or 2 tops. So what we have in our API is we have this concept of notification postback URLs, and that basically notifies your server when a report's done running. So in our API here, if you go back to the post on the listing report, you can see here that we have a notification postback URL. And what you would do with that is you would specify a URL on your server that can take notifications from our API, and it would receive that notification and say, hey, this report's done running, and then you can take action on your website to basically display the results.
Okay.
So it's basically a post handler. We post a notification, and in that notification we have different properties. See if I can show you an example, like based on here. Give me 1 second.
Sleep 20 minutes more.
You didn't need a shower. Well, I mean, you probably should shower, but I didn't need
Because we're really going to use this more as a sales tool.
Right. Give me 1 second here. I just want to show you like an example notification.
And the screen recording. So I have it for
So this would be like what we would post back to your server. So you get a notification with a description, and then like the parameters, like what type of report listing, the notification type, run completed, and then we give you like the report run ID, and then the listing report ID. So when you would get this notification on your end, you would be most interested in the report run ID because this is going to have the data for the report run. So as soon as you get that notification back, you take this report run ID, and then you would query our API with that report run ID to get that report run. And that's going to have, that report run will have this data here.
Okay.
So in the API, the endpoint, when you get, so you get a listing report run. So here's where you would pass this would be your endpoint to get the run. So you pass that report run ID to our API, it would give you the report run data, and then here's where you would have all of the different